There we go. All right. Thank you very much. I just wanted to let you know what we're going to be doing today will be a quick presentation on the idea of difficult conversations in education and how we can use AI to power practice. And so the overview, we're going to very briefly go into the challenge that my colleagues and I are facing, then a proposed solution, and the meat of this is really on the instructions, like so how you can take this and use it right away, and then a brief bit of discussion, as much as 10 minutes total will present, and my contact information. And so the challenge we're finding with our leader candidates and with our teacher candidates is that they need to be day one ready, but they leave our programs without the confidence to have difficult conversations with either other faculty members or with the parents or even students. And so their hesitation to engage in these difficult conversations means that some of the great work that they're poised to do gets stifled. And so this reduction in transparency, because the conversations are uncomfortable, can damage their relationships with their students, with colleagues, and with families. And so, all right, give them more practice. But practice is limited when you have a short amount of time in their programs and they have so much they have to do in their programs. And so they need to have more practice. So do we send them out into the field to have the practice? That doesn't seem like a great plan, sending them half-baked out into the field. So we need to give them the practice while they're still in that sheltered environment of our programs. But how do we do that in a safe space where they're willing to engage, where they're willing to take these risks? So using artificial intelligence, we can actually help them role play these conversations to build their confidence and their skills in having these difficult conversations. And so as of last week, we had to use our phones to do that. As of this week, you can use a computer or a tablet. So last week when I wrote these slides, AI with ChatGPT did not actually work to do this yet. But as of last week, after I sent the slides already, now it does. And so we can actually use the computers or tablets or phones to practice this. As of yesterday, Gemini has rolled out a voice capability. And so it keeps becoming more and more available. And so this is how we can actually do this. So the why, the increased confidence, the interactive engagement embedded in the technology, and the flexibility to do this when and where the student feels comfortable and safe, the candidate, to practice this. And so if you open up any voice-able artificial intelligence tool, you then set the scene. So you ask the AI to take the role of a skeptical professor, and then you take the role of an advocate, integrating AI into teaching. Then you start the action, describe how you want this to go. So I'll start by explaining my perspective. You will respond with your concerns, and then encourage interaction. So ask the AI tool to give you back and forth. So include a challenge or question so that the role player has to resolve this or address, then confirm whether it understands. And actually, you can ask these tools to provide you feedback on the quality of the interaction after the fact. So you can say, oh, and give me feedback to improve my practice next time, or give me your critical opinion on how I did. And so here are some examples. I will say that when you're going through setting these up to begin with, the you versus I can be a little overwhelming. So I parenthetically put the human in there just so everybody's clear, whether it's the AI tool or yourself, what rule you're taking. And so the first example here, you're the school leader, right? And then you're meeting with the artificial intelligence veteran teacher who's resistant to adopting a new curriculum. And that teacher feels the change disregards their years of experience. And so then the prompt is here. And so what this will do is it will engage with you, where you have to take the role of the school leader, and you can practice having this challenging conversation, which is a conversation that new leaders would really struggle with. And so this gives the opportunity to practice that conversation and then get feedback and suggestions on how to do it even better next time. There's no limit to the number of times you can try this, and there's no judgment here from colleagues in class. So they can go ahead, even when they're not feeling confident that they're going to do a good job, they can go ahead and try it, because no one's going to know if they really messed up the first time. All right, so then I put in another scenario here for teacher candidates where you're playing the role of the teacher and you're engaging with an artificial intelligence frustrated parent concerned about their child's performance, and they want the school to provide more support. And the parent is going to approach aggressively and focus on those academic concerns. I would love to say that all the parents with whom I've ever engaged have always maintained a level of professionalism and were never aggressive, but that's just not the case. A teacher's face, an administrator's face. And so this way they get the opportunity to practice this challenging conversation without any high stakes attached. And so you can also generate additional prompts. Just use that recipe. We actually had a candidate who kept applying for jobs and would get to the interview, and then our dear sweet candidate would mess up the interview. She just got so nervous that she couldn't land the job. And so she went ahead and practiced using AI and actually got the job she wanted. And so that's a little success story. And I gave the slides, and so I'm pretty sure since it dropped out that my time is up.
Thank you. Nancy, I think you may have jumped the gun a bit there. Would you be able to stop sharing, please?
So sorry, excuse me. So sorry, excuse me.
That's okay. Jess, you've actually got about another minute or so if you did want to keep going, or if you're happy to go to Q&A, we can ask some questions.
I just wanted to share my contact information with the group and then absolutely go to questions. And so these slides will be shared afterwards.
Thank you so much. We are going to potentially put all of the slides on our web pages, and we can circulate those with everyone via a link. But we'll keep you updated on that one. But please also, if you do have any resources, please use the Q&A or the chat, and we can share those as well. So thank you.
No worries, Nancy. I see Kirsten had a question about feeding the documents. Right now, I'm not sure I would encourage my candidates to feed in documents that weren't publicly available on the website unless they were using the temporary feature in ChatGPT. So there's a way to do that where it is temporary so it doesn't get stored. But if they're just going with a general version, I probably wouldn't be able to do that. And I would love to always be able to use humans, but our candidates sometimes are nervous about engaging with humans because we're naturally a little judgy and our facial expressions. So this way they can do it just as a practice using the audio, and then engage with people once they have a little more practice. And there was another one I saw come in about my confidence in the temporary feature. Yeah, I think right now I am confident with the temporary feature because I can't go back and get the information, but I'm not really sure. So I don't have a great answer for that one.
We do have a question. We've got a few questions in the Q&A, Jess. One's from Kirsten, and she said, have you added a dimension of feeding documents to the bot for more context? So, for example, mission, values of school, group norms for classrooms, or any important regulations.
Right. I was reading the question and answer. So I'm not sure, as long as it's publicly available, I'd be comfortable putting it in, but I wouldn't necessarily drop any private documents into it unless they were already publicly available on the web, just because I don't know how they're being retained and or being fed into the model. So I'm not sure I would go ahead using that. I have used it for it being the interviewer rather than the interviewee, because our leader candidates will go into roles where they have to interview others, and they found it was very helpful. It actually can, Laura, be aggressive when you ask it to. It does a pretty good job when you're asking it to role play and give it its attitude. It will adopt that attitude. And so we actually had a student role play a conversation where they were a leader in a private school that required parents to do community service hours with their children and pay tuition. And so the AI assumed the role of a parent who was angry about doing these community service hours while they were also paying tuition. And it got pretty aggressive to begin with and really challenged our leader candidate. So it did a great job giving our leader candidate the opportunity to speak to the school's mission and why they have this practice in place and really solve that problem with the fake parent. It did a great job. David, I don't know the answer to that. I figure if it's publicly available, then it might already be a part of the information scraping that happens with some of these models.
Thanks, Jess. I think we've probably got time for one more question, if that's okay. And I'm going to ask it if that's all right.
Sure.
So what's one piece of advice that you would give to educators or anyone who's here today who's just interested in teaching, who might be hesitant about integrating AI into their practice, so professional development or teaching, or any kind of advice there on people who are completely new or a bit worried about it?
I would be transparent about how rapidly it's evolving, and I would highlight the iterative nature of the process, sort of going with I think Ilias's comment about designing the prompts. As you do an iterative process, you get better at asking for what you want, and it gets better at answering the way you want it to answer. So just, give yourself some grace to ask the question in a way that it can be interpreted. And then when you get the answer that works for you, ask the tool to rephrase how you could have asked it or prompted into the tool, so that you ask the tool itself to tell you how to start so that you can do it even better next time. Does that make sense?
It does. Perfect. Thank you. And I really like the comment in the chat there. Be patient. We learn too. So that was a great one. So thank you so much, Jess. That was a great start to the webinar. Thank you so much for joining us today, all the way over from the US as well. It's lovely to have you.